So, Dakwa, how's your gold looking? Because I know last summer people were buying into a lot of gold all the way into this new year, and now it's like gold is at an all-time high. So I'm obviously expecting you to have some gold. Tell me more about your stash of gold.
I don't have any gold stash, so I don't. I'm I'm not in green guts. I don't
So
have
no
any
gold bars
exposure.
from Costco, no nothing.
No, nothing. I don't have any exposure to gold. Not even securitized gold. But you know, gold. It was news, financial news. Gold hit an all-time high. Gold has always been considered like a hedge against inflation, against currency devaluation, and just it's one of those things that is like one of the commodities, precious metals that's being traded on public markets. Up and down. People do it for capital appreciation, and all that. But when you now start seeing like significant um, upward movement in the price of gold, some people say it's like an omen of something, much bigger. And people are beginning to speculate about like de-dollarization, China being stacking up gold, other countries, increasing their gold stash and all that. So I'm curious as to like what the cause was or is, and and the way I'm seeing the price movement, I believe it'll probably hit 5K before it either stabilizes or corrects downwards. But yeah, it's interesting to see, this like sudden move into gold.
All right, you heard it here first from Dakwa on Backyard Conversation. How high gold's gonna go to the moon? It's Backyard Conversations. Let's get it. All right, did you notice, in any community, actually people getting into gold, like it's been in the news, or is it just something that just surprise attacked you?
Um, so funny enough, like there's actually been a history of people storing wealth in gold. Like people in our parents' generation would buy like original gold, trinkets, jewelry, and things like that, not just for fashion, but for as a way of stashing um cash, especially when like people didn't trust financial institutions, currency devaluation, inflation, and all that. Um, so now to see it like go up this significantly, and then um, it making the news about, like, of course, from this current all-time high, there was a previous all-time high, but gold price has kind of tracked inflation just a bit higher,
Right.
and then it just kind of spiked in the last couple of weeks to months. So what that move is either a sign off or something, and for it to move that quickly, I don't even think it's retail. I think it's probably like high net worth, super upper, what's it called, um, ultra high net worth individuals and
Individuals.
institutions that
Mhm.
will be able to move the price and that quickly and that far up.
It's interesting that you mentioned high net worth people. I do remember, however, like sometime I think earlier this year, I think it was, where Costco was selling gold bars,
For real.
and yep, and they were selling out pretty quickly, and people were,
That's
yeah, I know,
interesting.
it was quite interesting. And some of the remarks were, why would you do that? Like gold has been this, pretty much stable for what, centuries now, or decades and decades. Like gold just kind of holds its value. It doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily move drastically. So I guess those guys got the last laugh because I don't know. I don't know if they're gonna flip their gold. I don't know how that works, but just having gold
Well, the
from
people who bought.
people who bought pretty early,
Yeah.
yes. And now, as you said, it's tracking looking like 5 grand per ounce, which is that right now is currently under 4,300
Yeah.
USD per ounce, and it's looking like if you bought some gold earlier this year, you're sitting pretty. I don't think people bought in volumes that it will be able
Mm.
to just make tons of money like you would in say something like Bitcoin, for example, if you invested early. But investment is an investment, and people will be happy they invested in this when they did. Let's hope something crazy doesn't happen to flip the switch again and this depreciates quicker than it.
Well, I mean, so it depends on like what POV you're looking at it from, because some people would even argue that it's not the gold price that is increasing, but the dollar value that is reducing, right?
Fair.
So if you say, oh, well, it's going down, maybe that might mean like the dollar is being more stable. And the unfortunate thing is that because the dollar is the US, is the international currency of trade,
Yeah,
um, any destabilization of the US dollar is going to trickle to almost everyone else in the world.
that's the
So
power of having the reserve currency.
yeah, so there is like, even if you don't spend USD in your day to day, there is some concern for the stability of the USD.
How much gold do you think China have stashed away somewhere?
I don't know. That's something like it's probably there's probably like some estimates out there.
Yeah, I'm seeing
You're looking it up, right?
2298.53 metric tons,
Hmm.
which is, do you think that's enough reason for them to try and get into this all new tariff war with the US? Maybe they looked at their gold stash and they're like, you know what? Let's just do some rare earth minerals maneuvering right now and see what comes out from the White House. Do you think that's what happened?
Well, so I mean, you know, China and US have been doing this tit for tat thing where it's interesting because it's like some sort of huge global international game theory experiment where you know today you see them collaborating and being on good terms, and collaborating both because there's a benefit to it and then kind of like out of necessity, and then next day you're seeing some sort of rivalry, tit for tat, and petty, do me I do you type thing. And it didn't start this year, but I think China has been getting a bit bolder, just as US, especially in this current administration, has been trying to be more or to be less reliant on you know uh, foreign trade, especially with China. Um, and I mean, some would argue that US doesn't have that much to be concerned about because a large chunk of US trade is actually done internally. Um, but someone can also argue that US has, compared to especially a lot of Eastern countries, has relatively deindustrialized or has stagnated in their industrialization, and
Hmm.
that has been because they've outsourced a lot of labor to China. And so, you could argue that, oh, it's not a good position to be in. You want to get some of that back and blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
And so now, we are all that, back and forth historical has landed in China saying they want to stop and do an export ban on rare earth metals. And many of these rare earth metals are critical in the production of like electronics and everything. And the day and age we live in now, there's like electronic components in everything. Like you've got fridges with
Hmm.
computers inside of them.
Right.
Um, and so if they were to do that, it will create a ripple effect on, the electronics industry and every other industry that's tied to the electronics industry. And so US basically did their own retaliation of tariff and all that.
Right.
And now they are still duking it out with each other. And
I mean,
markets
they're
are
meeting
very
soon, right?
uncertain.
So
What?
Trump and Xi Jinping are having a meeting, if not next week, by the time of this
Yeah,
recording, probably in a
yeah.
couple of weeks. So we'll hear more about the outcomes and all the negotiations. But there's going to be a lot of ego venting back and forth, especially between Trump and Xi Jinping. So
The
we're gonna see
irony is
some of
that
that.
I think whenever they're insane, and this is like a general human thing with disability. It seems to me, and of course, I'm so far removed, it's hard to tell. But from what we can see, it seems to me that whenever they are in the same room or in the same space, right, there's a bit more civility. And then whenever they
Calmer,
are away, yeah, whenever they're away from each other, there's now that, um, squabble. And
especially
it
now
happens
in
with
big.
what?
I was gonna say, especially now in big 2025, right? Nobody wants to get Zelensky.
Ah.
So everyone just has to be calm. Go in there, just laugh, make jokes, and get out of there.
Yeah,
So if
but I
anybody
mean,
wanted to
it's part of
compare,
human behavior.
it is just for comparison. We talked about how much gold China currently have in reserve. The U.S. on the other hand have like 8,133.5 metric tons, so almost three times
Mm-hmm.
what what Canada, what China have,
Mm.
and it's the U.S.'s reserve is the largest official gold reserve. Official, that word is important because there's some people that probably have some things that we don't know about, but official record for
I don't think
largest
any
reserve,
individual would have that much.
not like
Um,
individual nation. You mean?
I don't, huh? Because gold is such a hard thing to move, and even if someone was buying securitized gold,
Hmm.
um, like it's very difficult to hide, right? That's one of the things about gold. It's very very difficult to hide. So if any
Especially
institution,
nowadays. But what about a century ago?
oh no, a century ago, I mean, a country could have maybe conquered another country, mined gold under, and then kept it in a stash somewhere. And then maybe what you're saying is they've held that stash, for centuries, and we've not been tracking it.
It's a
Well,
treasure.
we'll ask Jack Sparrow to help us go and find it.
Yeah, and to your point about the U.S. having the reserve currency, I saw a stat recently that kind of blew my mind, and it kind of explains why if you have a leader of the free world like Donald Trump at the helm, they will want to flex this muscle.
Hmm.
It's a country like the U.S. has about 5% of the world's total population,
Hmm.
but in terms of GDP, they account for a quarter, like 25%.
Yep.
And in terms of the world's equity, market cap, they account for 70%.
Yep.
So you look at all these numbers and you're like, yeah, so they're in a position to pretty much do whatever they
Buga
want.
anybody, yeah.
Exactly. And that kind of muscle flexing is probably why when some other countries were recognizing Palestinian states, the US kind of chose to not go that route and still try to broker a deal regardless of what everybody else thought around them,
Hmm.
which kind of leads us to like the US, the Israel and Gaza ceasefire. So how's that holding up?
Well, so I think it's um like, say what you want about Donald Trump. It seems like he does earnestly want, again, we don't know what's beneath the surface, but it appears like the dude actually earnestly wants peace in the Middle East. And that peace, whatever
The
you,
Nobel
I'm putting peace in quotes because it seems to be that that peace is engineered or designed or engineered in a way that makes Israel happy. Israel and US have this very, um, I don't know what word to use to describe it, but a friendly relationship that is more than friends. I don't know how else.
highly
Anyway,
spiritual.
yeah, I won't even
It's
call it. I won't
it's
even call
it's
it
not
spiritual.
necessarily, but it's on a
Just
different realm. To the point where no matter how irrational things might look, maybe at the war front or something, like the
yeah,
U.S. is
like
backing.
to the general public, right? You
Yeah,
just be like,
right.
okay, but it just seems because even whenever, like, regardless of which U.S. political party is in power, they always seem to just take sides with Israel.
Yeah,
And
you're right. I
there's
think
been
irrational is a good
also,
term to describe it.
yeah, like there's also speculation about how much Israel have their hooks in, the U.S. government and lobbying parties like IPAC and all that. But again, like, as much information as the average person can dig up, it just seems to be, deeper than that. Like they say, inside if you're another, if you're on the inside, it just seems like there's always something more beneath the surface. But
Yeah,
Um,
layers.
this ceasefire that has happened, I guess it's a good thing. I would say it's a accumulation of some of the efforts that were started in his previous term. But how long it will last? Because those tensions, like you don't flick a switch and you know turn off those tensions, right? Some of those tensions have been passed down by via indoctrination to children. Because I've seen some clips of them interviewing Israeli kids and Palestinian kids, and them expressing disdain for the other country, and they're like, how are kids being taught to, dislike people that you've never met, they've never disturbed you before, but just because your nations are fighting war with each other, you've been taught that. So hopefully, this ceasefire like leads to a dowsing of those tensions. Um, and I mean, there's nothing better than peace. Like you can't argue one way or the other for them to continue fighting, regardless of who was instrumental in brokering that peace. So I just pray that the peace remains. I pray that the tensions don't come back. I pray that they both answer, abide by the terms of the ceasefire. Um, the truth is, no matter which way it is, because of the damage that has been done, some remnant somewhere will still feel like the terms are unfair or whatever, or they didn't get fully what they want. But that's the only way to get peace is by compromise, especially with the kind of tit for tat that has been done over decades. You know.
Yeah, I mean, if a group like Hamas can attack, Israel, and you have some Palestinian random kid paying for it with their parents' lives, I think it's easier to understand their plight. You're
Mm,
just there playing the field, and the sniper just taking you out, and you're like a 7 year old or something. It's like, and and the entire country has been razed to the ground, and you know the warring countries is blowing up with 6 different countries during this whole ordeal. So yeah, it is kind of something where it's like if you listen to different sides of the story, sure, war is hell. Nobody deserves, like, women and children. All these innocent people do not deserve to die
yeah.
for this senseless, terrorist attacks. But you always gotta keep in mind that we need to try our best to be aware and not be numb. We talked about this. Like, there's just so much news and so much chaos that it's easy to be numb to all this
Yes.
violence and all these very, very sad scenarios, even to the point where there's religious upsets and violence in parts of Nigeria. It's gotten to the point where it's getting even more international attention than it normally would, right?
Hmm.
So we're talking about extremism, especially in the north.
Yeah. Definitely not. I mean, it's. I'm somewhat questioning why now that it's getting the international attention that it is. Um, but maybe because there's a bit of a light being shown on people of Christian persuasion in the West. But this thing has been going on since for years. Boko Haram basically came in, mainly 2011, and they've been killing people in thousands, raising down villages, burning churches, kidnapping people. The last time that there was, international thing was maybe 2014, 2015, around Bring Back Our Girls. But then after that, the rest of the world just left Nigeria alone, and we continued dealing with the fallout of that. And then just recently, there's been stuff in Yelwata, stuff in around the Middle Belt, and there's now like a lot of speculation. First of all, like these things should not be happening. Um, the claim that it is religious in nature is there's some truth to it, but I think the people who are doing it under the guise of religion might be just like airhead foot soldiers who don't know who's even pushing the strings.
Mhm.
Um, and it's a misrepresentation of the Islamic faith. So I don't think even any true, genuine Muslim should be in support of what's going on. But again, beneath the surface, there's also speculation around land grabbing, both for like agriculture, land grabbing for mineral resources, maybe foreign powers trying to destabilize Nigeria as a whole or the region for some funky agendas. Middle Eastern countries trying to push Islamic. Like it's all just a mess, and it's sad to hear that what humans do the worst thing for power. Um, and so it's sad to hear that just for some people who for them to be able to move the needle this much, it means they're already powerful. And so for some people to try to like hold on to power or increase the power they currently already have to just sacrifice innocent lives needlessly, it's very, very sad to hear. My prayer is that you know these things, the attention is getting now, will move the needle towards these things being reduced and completely eradicated. I mean, when we were growing up, we did there were a few, religious, ethno-religious killings we heard of, maybe when we were in primary school, secondary school, but it was like few and far between. And
Right.
back then, like it was, it was really like when you saw it in the newspaper, when it came on the news, well, it was shocking. But like you said, it's like now these things happen so frequently and in such large numbers that we begin to get like numb to it. And we should not get numb to the loss of life, regardless of how that's happening. And I really pray that this thing goes away. It goes away.
Hey,
It came from somewhere. It should go. It should go. It should go away. It should just go away.
as far away as possible.
Yeah.
I pray with you, and I honestly do hope that this ends well. You and I know that this world we live in, like insurgencies, conflict, and wars, are all commoditized, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
someone's business to sell arms. Someone is making
Yep.
sure these groups are armed, and if you're gonna get to the bottom of this, you have to upset some already existing systems.
Yeah.
Something has some cancer has to be removed.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be really surgical. And what's not so surgical is our boy's performance in Tron Ares. Did you hear about what's his name
Mhm.
again?
How do you transition from religious war to Tron Ares? But hey, we do it sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, we do it sometimes. I was about to go like Jared Leto. This is
Who is your boy? Maybe he's your boy, Sha. He's not. I've always considered him an overrated actor.
technically he isn't, but I just wanted to I tried so hard to segue that. The thing is, people are saying this film is so bad that it might actually end his career as a leading man. I don't think it's that dramatic.
Is
I
he ever
know
a
he's
leading man?
technically, Morbius, and also Yo, why are you laughing so hard, man?
Keep going, keep going.
You
Obvious.
you you forget the Joker. You forget the Joker.
If you had said Joker, I wouldn't have laughed this hard.
But yeah, because I recently saw Tron Legacy from 2010. I saw it a couple weeks ago, and I really enjoyed it. It's
Yeah,
so
like
good,
we
and
were
I.
because we were in uni when Tron Legacy came out, and we're hyped
Mm-hmm.
about it, right?
Yep.
But this Tron Ares, nah, nah,
Have you
nah.
seen it though?
No, no, I haven't. I saw the trailer and I was just like completely uninterested. There wasn't anything there. And apparently, like synopsis is that they were able to materialize the digital world into the real world. I think that's just a cheap way to save money on doing visual effects, which you would think that with the tech and the all the methodology that we've developed in the time since Legacy came out, we find it easier to be able to pull off, a virtual world with all the CGI and visual effects and all that. And they say, oh, they
Right.
materialize that from blind. I wasn't interested. I beg. There was nothing in trailer that interested me.
Yeah. Eventually, it'll come to Disney Plus, and I'll see it. But I don't really think I'm gonna go to the theaters to see it. As much as I want to make my own judgment about the film, I want to review it for myself and not just you know
Going
take
off.
take it as it is
I mean,
from
so the thing
everybody
is,
else.
it's also like a thing of interest, right? Like if I see a trailer and I feel like I didn't feel anything, I just didn't feel. Well, I felt apathy towards it. I was like, I'm and I know how enthusiastic I was about Tron Legacy when it came out. So I don't know if this is like a function of us growing older and maybe we're growing out of demographic that would be. But I still love sci-fi. That would be excited about either the genre or no, I would say the genre, but maybe that IP in particular. But basically, when I saw the trailer, when I heard that they were announcing a Tron movie, there was a tiny dash of enthusiasm when I heard they were doing a new Tron, because of course, nostalgic feeling about Tron Legacy. But when I then saw the trailer, I was like, this does nothing for me. I don't feel anything. I don't feel any enthusiasm to go watch it. So, I might
I was
see it when
hoping
it comes out on digital, but I'm not even looking forward to that.
Personally, I was hoping it would do one of two things or both concurrently, which would be like a visual feast on one hand, where the VFX was going to be like, oh, this is off the charts on the one hand. And on the
Hmm?
other hand, it's like the story is kind of decent and it carries on from Legacy to Ares. But
Mm.
it looks like now they're, to your point, cutting back on some of the VFX, and the story apparently is lacking based on the reviews I've read. It seems like it's doing neither of those two things,
And I
which
mean, they're not bringing back any of the characters from Legacy.
I think they did. I think they did. I haven't seen it yet, but maybe I've been avoiding spoilers. I don't know. So maybe that's why I haven't seen it.
The only thing I've seen is that there was a Jeff Bridges cameo, maybe
Yeah,
at the tail end of the movie. But other than that, I don't think any of the characters reprised
that's
their
kind of
roles.
what I meant. I was trying not to, not trying not to spoil it for you, but yes, Jeff Bridges returns. So it kind of one return at least.
You want to spoil the movie anyway? Sha, thanks for respecting my
The
avoidance of spoiler.
consideration, yeah. But it's funny because you saw this trailer, and knowing you even avoid trailers for things you're hyped about. So,
Yeah, like
that means
my rule is I will see
maybe.
one trailer or one teaser, and then after that, if it's a movie I really want to see, I won't see anything else until I see the movie.
So maybe you weren't really interested in this from the onset. The fact that you saw how many trailers of Tron Ares did you see?
I only saw one. I only saw
Just
one
the one.
actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay. No teasers, no nothing. No. Okay.
no feature, nothing.
Okay. Yeah. But some leadership at Apple dropped a teaser last week about a computer, and they eventually dropped it like a couple of days later. You know how Apple does this drops in October when it's little to no fanfare. It's like, oh yeah, it's the M5, it's a beast, it's whatever. Just get it if you don't own an M1 already.
Yeah.
Um, I find it funny that there used to be a sentiment of, oh man, I hate Apple. There's too much planned obsolescence. Like I just got this phone and now it's buggy and laggy and they want me to get a new one. But now the complaint has shifted to, oh man, I'm trying to upgrade from my M4 and they've given me no reason to get M5. I'm like, what makes you guys think consumerism is a good thing? I
So
find
even
I find that
even
really troublesome.
like even Apple doesn't isn't like benchmarking the M5 against the M4, right?
Right.
They are benchmarking it against the M1. So it's like, okay, if someone has an M1 or an Intel processor like I do, like I still do, and I'm going to keep nagging about my laptop until I find a new one. But
Until you get the Apple Silicon.
yeah, but that's who it's for. And then Apple is not going to like say, oh well, because the M4 is so good, we are not going to develop any chips. And
Right.
what I think happened, like it clicked for me when they upgraded the iPad to M3, is that what I think happens is once they run out of inventory on a current gen and the next gen has already completed design and has gone to the foundries for production, then it's efficient for them not to make more of the current gen or past gen processors and then exhaust that inventory in the devices that they have, especially the lower end devices. So it now looks like a rolling release. So if you bought, an M4 yesterday and M5 came out today, you don't really have anything to worried about, right? Like, yeah, might feel a bit, oh, if I just waited one day, I might have gotten maybe 5, 10, 15% increase in performance and whatnot. But for most tasks, people who are that concerned about minor bumps in performance should be going for much higher processors that will give them a bit more room, irrespective of
Right.
the processors that come out year to year. But for the average person, for the average laptop buyer, if you bought an M4 yesterday and the M5 comes out today, you don't really have anything to worry about. You'll be good for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Agreed. And I noticed some people even posted on Reddit, for example, where they ordered like a M4 with pretty much the same specs as the M5 that dropped a couple days later, and they
Mm-hmm.
were immediately just upgraded without any extra
Oh,
cost. Yeah, which is really impressive.
that's
And
good. That's very good, actually.
so apparently it's like a thing they do where if you order something so close with a new drop and before it ships, they can give you the newer one. I think also logistically it's probably easier for them,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so
I mean, that was one of the things that I heard Tim Cook was really good at when he was COO, is that like he got Apple to be able to manage their inventory pipeline so efficiently down to like a single device. That's
right.
why even in places like Nigeria, where a lot of people still for cost savings would buy like 2, 3 year old devices. Once it gets to a certain level, you find that those devices are very hard to find brand new. You know.
Yeah. And for the M5 drop, they also released Vision Pro with M5, which is not Vision Pro 2, just
Mm-hmm.
Vision Pro
With them
refreshed
fine.
in
Yeah.
a kind of sort of way. So it's I haven't seen anybody really do like a deep dive comparison between the M5 version and the one prior and see how much gains you have. But obviously, it's going to be just more future proof, and especially now from the Apple Silicon era, which is something that also happened pre Apple Silicon. I'm talking about the Intel joints. These are some of the devices, especially with Macs. Like you buy once and you think I'm going to use this for like 6 to 7 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even your phones, because you're always going to be getting firmware updates, it lasts a good amount of time. So I don't think anyone should be expecting to upgrade every year cycle unless you're somebody who just has more money than common
And you
sense
know
and you
what to
just want to
do
buy,
with.
then you know what to do with, right? Or maybe you review products and you buy and then you return, which some
Yeah.
people also
Mm-hmm.
do. Well, other than that, it's just too much of a waste. They only announced the M5 Mac in 14-inch though, so people are still waiting for like the 16-inch, the
And
big,
because
the big, the big
they
boy,
don't put the base processor in the 16. They go from Pro, and the
right?
M5 Pro isn't ready yet.
Isn't ready yet,
So right now, like the lineup is M5, M4 Pro, M4 Max.
right?
Yeah, they
And
haven't
and
even
there's
done Ultra from M. What was the last Ultra? M2,
M,
M3,
I think M3.
M3. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah, but we'll hear more about those like the big boy machines at WWDC next year. I think, especially with like the new Mac Pro that's been rumored. I don't think there's going to be a
actually,
design hall though.
oh really?
I don't know. I don't know if there's going to be a design hall. I'm not sure.
It'll be cool if they did, and I know like a lot of people didn't like it. The what they call the trash can mark, the
N-
cylindrical mark.
Yeah,
I thought that that was like very good hardware design. It was just that the internals were not good enough to
at the time,
support it at the time. But now with the efficiency of like the M series chips and all that, I mean, look at what they were able to pull off with the Mac
the
Studio.
mini, even the
Yeah,
mini.
not even the mini, the studio, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, if you just round off the corners of the studio, you get a new cylindrical Mac Pro.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing they released was a iPad with M5. That one
Mhm.
I'm interested in, right? Because I got I own a much older iPad Pro from I think 2020 with the A12Z. Like it's not even the M series.
Mm.
So if I'm working in video with like DaVinci Resolve, for example, on the iPad, I can't export to 4K because my chip can't even handle it. But for
Ooh,
the
okay,
M1, you can work in 4K. Well, I'm capped at a 1080p. Those little
okay.
things, right? And especially if you do video on tablet, which it's not the best, but for the quick color grading, I honestly prefer color grading with the Apple Pencil than mouse and keyboard because
Mm.
then you could dial in things, you could play around with different
More
palettes,
precise. Mm-hmm.
get more precise input and feedback. So that's something that I'll be keeping an eye on because the M5 looks so exciting. I can imagine what the upgrade is going to look like.
The thing that I want from the iPad is I want the Air to get a 120 hertz display. So it's now that they've upgraded like the iPhones to
The base
all 120.
iPhone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm hoping the Air gets a 120 Hz display because I prefer Touch ID, and then of course the Air is more affordable than the Pro. So if the Air got a 120 Hz display, it will be like the perfect Goldilocks device for me. Because it will make the latency for drawing much better. Uh, and I think the other thing about like these upgrades is because they've shifted to this their liquid glass 26 design. I think that this thing will be a bit more resource hungry. So, anybody on older devices are actually going to, even if your device can get the new 26 OS, you probably feel that, like, lag and all that from, so the newer stuff is to accommodate
Trust
all
me,
of those
I
fancy
feel it right
features.
now with my
Yeah,
older iPad. Like
same
some
here.
things are just not snappy enough. I just feel
Hmm.
like I just need more power, you know?
Hmm.
It's a bit heavier. Even though it seems decently optimized for like an older device,
Yeah.
it could be better. It could be
Yeah,
better.
it could be. Mhm. Although
Um,
I would also argue that modern software development has taken for granted the power of current computers because it's like they are a bit reckless with system resources, and this happens on all platforms: Windows, Mac OS, iOS, Android, all platforms. I think the only platform that is still very like reasonable with hardware
yeah,
resources is Linux. You
Linux.
know,
Yeah,
yeah.
one could argue that some of the optimizations on maybe before liquid glass. I don't know how it's going to be like in a year from now. Maybe if it gets better with 26 everywhere,
Hmm.
but I know for iOS, Mac OS, and things like you almost never see a difference in many cases between like a base level device and like a pro device, like an everyday use,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
right?
So I
So
mean, yeah, they were pre-optimized up until recently.
yeah,
Um, I guess maybe they just decided, we want to upgrade the OS. We're going to need a bump in hardware, and we'll carry people along for as long as we can. But after some time, you're going to have to upgrade.
and especially seeing the incremental growth of Apple Silicon over the past 5 years, I think they have that confidence that once people go through their product upgrade cycle in the next 3 to 5 years, they will be able to
Mhm.
get even more users on like the newer chips,
Yeah.
and the software can be hopefully even more fluid. And then so yeah, that's I guess the life hack. The lessons today is don't be so quick to upgrade devices, especially if they're fully functional. There's no need to waste money right now. If
Yep.
you have money, you should be saving it or buying gold or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, put that money in gold. Don't go out there just
not
trying to
not
get the.
financial advice. Drop
No,
that
not
disclaimer.
definitely don't take that financial advice. We're just talking here, and there's a good chance there's some gold in your iPhone, but you don't want to tear it apart just to get the gold out. All right, I guess that's it for us today's backyard conversations, and we're out.
Peace.